Tonight, I'm going to be speaking about two of my favorite things in the whole wide world. First one is technology. I'm a total nerd, I confess, and AI is a tool, or it's just something that I've been so blown away and having so much fun with. And the second thing that I love is learning. So to speak about learning and tech in the same presentation, I have been so excited about this. I've been like a kid at Christmas, literally counting sleep. And I'm so glad that you guys have joined tonight. What I'm hoping for is that when you leave here tonight, it's not, I promise you, I'm not going to do death by PowerPoint. What I'd like to do is really get into the meat of it by doing a live demo. And that always comes with risks, but I'm happy to go for it and show you my toolbox or my tool set that I've built for my research workflow. And hopefully that will inspire you to look at it a little bit deeper and maybe get to know the tools a little bit more. And hopefully it really, skyrockets or catapults your research to the next level. So I'm going to speak a little bit, I will introduce myself and we'll speak a little bit about the potential of AI, the evolution, how institutions are responding to AI, the ethical considerations. I want to speak a little bit about innovations in AI. I want to share with you an academic toolbox and then building a personal workflow. What does that look like? And then I'm going to share mine with you. And hopefully it makes you so excited about the possibilities, but also helps you to understand where the gates are and how you need to be very responsible and how you need to use AI in your research. So about me, just a little bit. I'm an author, a speaker. I work for Liberty and Standard Bank. I've been there almost 10 years. Passionate about using tech to empower people and improve lives. In 2018, my son and I started a business called ClickSafe Online. And this is really, really my passion project. I absolutely love it. It's about educating parents, guardians, teachers on how to keep children safer. So I'm going to talk about the AI tools used. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I want to really get to the practical, actionable insights. So why use AI in academic research? So people ask me a lot about AI, and I'm studying gender equality in a gender fluid environment. So we're not speaking about gender. There's people that are far on one side or far on the other side saying, you're either completely woke or no, there's only two genders. So there's really strong feelings on either side. And I find when I speak about AI, I encounter that exact same thing. So for example, my son, I mentioned earlier, I have two sons, but my youngest is the one that does ClickSafe Online. He's very anti-AI. He believes that AI is going to be the last major event that humans come up with. And I believe it's the best thing since sliced bread. So we've got very different opinions about AI. So I want you to think back to when you were at school and you used to count on your fingers, like this cute little girl in the picture. And when we ran out of fingers, what did we do? We started counting on fingers and toes. And when we ran out of fingers and toes, we were given a calculator. And I remember when I was in school, back in the olden days, my mom used to say, how can they give you a calculator? Because you won't learn how to do maths in your head. And then what happened? Now kids are using Excel and they're using macros and formulas. And what happens is because the tools are evolving, our ability to use them to solve more complicated problems are also evolving. So I want to ask you, would you trust this guy to remove your appendix if you're still counting on his fingers? I don't think so. So using AI in academic research, I think is really exciting. I use my workflow as a research assistant and my partner to power up my research. It's not a replacement. And that's really, really important. You can't outsource your work to AI. I've recently seen Thesis AI. Whoa, I don't know if you've seen it, but it blew my mind because it will write an entire thesis of one prompt, which is scary. And it claims to be able to pass any AI detection systems, but when tested, it doesn't actually work that well yet. But this is how fast AI is developing. So the way I use it, it's really to streamline repetitive tasks, to free up time for me to do deeper analysis. I love using it for brainstorming. Literature reviews are incredible. I don't know if, like me, you guys are just finding there's too much information on your subject. How do you get through it all? I was looking at my library, and I know I've got over 1,000 PDFs in my library. Now, how can you possibly read through 1,000 research papers to understand the subject? It is almost impossible. And so I love using AI to do that, and I'm going to share with you how I do it. And then I love to organize my data in a specific place. I've built a second brain that I'm going to share with you. And then, there's things like ChatGPT, SciSpace, there's a bunch of tools, and people think they're using them to their maximum potential, but nearly every time I open ChatGPT, there's a new feature, or there's something different that we can do with it. And so I'm just going to go through the basic tools again and show you a little bit more about how they have grown. And then what I get very excited about is the new tools are giving us different ways to interact and consume with the research. Give you an example. On my iPad, I use ChatGPT voice quite a bit. So I might be driving in my car and an idea comes to mind and I go, hey, ChatGPT, and it pops open and I can speak to it and say, I had this idea about my research. Won't you please write, an outline or do a summary or do a search for me on this particular thing? And then when I get back to my laptop and I open it up, there in the ChatGPT is the search that I asked it to do. And other that, or it responds in voice and we have a whole conversation. And I was telling my friend the other day that there are times that I forget it's software because it's so good. I'll go like, yeah, that's so cool. Thank you. And then I realize I'm thanking software. Or I go, I love it, because I completely forget that it's just a tool and it's software and it's not even a real human. But I've created such a great experience for myself using these tools that it's like I have a research assistant with me all the time. And that's wonderful. Okie dokie. I love this because I didn't realize that artificial intelligence as a phrase or a term was coined back in 1956. The first chatbot, Eliza, 1965. I can't believe it's been, that long ago. And in 1970, 2 years before I was born, there was the first AI conference. And then Japan started their project, and then natural language in 1985. And it just has grown since there to in 2005, we already had standard artificial intelligence moving into DeepMind. Watson was trained to play Jeopardy and actually won it, which is really amazing. And then as we go along, we see things like GPT model was released. We started using this in 2018. And then what happened was it exploded. And I think a lot of people, myself included, forget the long trip it's come through because we're just overwhelmed with where we are right now. And one of the biggest quotes I saw that came out of this was, wisdom, not just algorithms, is what we need to negotiate this terrain. And I think that's really important. And that's why, as much as AI has amazing potential for good or for not so good. With ClickSafe Online as an example, we're looking at people actually using AI for nefarious reasons. They're creating naughty photos using AI and actually removing the clothing off of somebody and then blackmailing them when it's actually not their image. So there's a lot of people that are using AI for bad things, and equally a lot of people using it for good. I don't know if you guys saw the news recently, but Brad Pitt reached out to a woman and needed help because with his divorce to Angelina, all his money got frozen and he was in hospital and he needed some money for medical treatments. And this poor woman forked out over $800,000 to help him. And she was getting pictures of him in the hospital. It was all created with AI. And honestly, if you look at it, anybody of us looking at that in this forum would say we could tell immediately it was AI. But as it evolves, even these deep fakes are getting more and more believable. So it's really changing. It's moving so, so fast. And I think that's where the biggest conundrum comes in, because especially those who have said, I've played with one or two tools, it's very overwhelming when you first sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to be using AI. Let me look at it. And wow, you suddenly just all of these different tools hitting you one at a time, and that gets a little bit scary. So I'm hoping to demystify it a lot and at least give you some guidance on, if you wanted to start tonight, straight after this, where you can start. And I think that should help. So when we look at responses to AI in academic settings, this has really, really been interesting for me. And this is not just South Africa, this is global. And my brother is a lecturer at a university in Johannesburg. And in their space, they've banned AI completely. So when we look at some academic institutions, some just discourage or ban the use of AI. And this was a real knee-jerk response because somebody used ChatGPT to write their project, handed it in, and when they did an AI detector, turn it in, offers you that. I'm going to show you some more tools later that you can use to detect AI. It came back 100%. And they didn't have, at the time, they didn't have a policy in place to say, this is how we're going to deal with AI. And so I think academic institutions are really struggling to keep up with the development, and it's understandable because of the fact that it is, as I say, moving so fast. But back to what I said earlier about AI being a tool, and how we use it is really giving us an advantage. A lot of people are afraid that AI is going to replace jobs. I don't think that's going to happen in the short term. I think people that know how to use AI will replace jobs. And so we've got some universities that are using it as a tool to enhance learning, streamline research processes, and I really applaud these guys. And then we've got some that encourage AI for brainstorming, for summarizing, and to support creativity. And I'm going to share with you how that's done. And I think it's very important also that in the policy, they require students to disclose AI in their work. In my humble opinion, given today's tech and the AI that we have available, it's highly unlikely that students today will not use AI. I'm not affiliated to any of the tools that I'm going to share with you. They're not sponsoring me. I'm going to speak about, if I mention Da Vinci Institute of Technology, that's who I'm studying through. This is not them. This is need to make that disclaimer so that everybody is aware that this is my personal opinion, and you're welcome to disagree with me. In fact, I encourage you to disagree with me because that's how I learn and that's how we all learn. So, the first thing you need to actually think about is, how do we see our institute addressing AI in the future? When we look at the ethical considerations in AI, and I was just mentioning to Novia One, to Carol, that I did their course on ethical AI last year, and Vulizani, who's here in the group today, also did, and she was one of the speakers on that course, and it was really, really great. And this is a challenge for everybody, is, where are the lines blurred? So I really think that the tool should support academic integrity, not undermine it. And that comes down to each and every one of us. The way that we use it is as important as what we do with it. And it's not infallible. You'll hear the word hallucination quite a bit when it comes to AI. And right in the beginning, when I was doing some research using ChatGPT, and it would make up sources. So I ask it to do, maybe write an intro on a certain subject and include references using the Harvard referencing. I'm going to share with you how to prompt ChatGPT, and it would go ahead and make up references. So you've always got to verify what the AI gives you. Even if it sounds unbelievably plausible, always verify. At the end of the day, it's your reputation, your academic integrity that depends on what you do. Then the other thing that we need to think about is, when do we share IP versus when do we have local models? So if anybody has heard about DeepSeek, this is the latest large language model that has been released by a Chinese company, and they built on what was already there. So OpenAI, who did ChatGPT, launched a ChatGPT model that people had to pay $200 a month to use. And as we know, they spent millions and millions and hundreds of millions to actually build their AI. What DeepSeek did is they spent $6.5 million to build their AI, and it outperforms ChatGPT's model on the 200 tier. So ChatGPT put out their Lamborghini, their Rolls Royce, and said you have to pay for it. These guys are going, here it is for free. And then there's obviously that conflict, like, are we happy with the Chinese knowing all of our information? Or are we happy with, or does it not matter? And so what I want to explain to you is there's a difference between sharing your information online versus running a local model. So when I share with you my workflow, I use ChatGPT online and others, but then I've also built my own AI on my laptop that can interrogate my own notes. So my notes from my research, I'm not putting into the cloud when I'm doing a ChatGPT or one of those other searches. I do it on my machine. Is it worth the effort? Maybe not. For me, I've spent 2 years building my workflow, and for me that was time well spent because I've learned so much. You don't need to do the same to get that same experience because these tools are coming out fast and furious. So think about how AI can enhance academic honesty rather than compromising it. And Dr. Andy Stapleton, I love to no end, and you'll see he's got the best energy. He plays with AI all the time. And if there's one person you want to follow on YouTube, it's this guy. So let's have a look at this video.
Use AI tools for research until you've watched these videos. Look at this. All of these people have rules for using generative AI in their journals. This is Elsevier. Look at all this boring stuff. This is Wiley. Look at all of this stuff. This is another one. PLOS One. Here's all the stuff they want you to know about using AI. This is all the stuff that Sage wants you to know. Nature group of people. That's actually not too long, that one. But Science. Look, it's all there. This one is mega long. All this stuff, and you need to know how it relates to using AI in research. And in this video, we're going to go through all of the rules, and the first one is the most important. Do you remember a time when people were like,
oh, you shouldn't use AI, it's cheating?
Well, they realize now that they like using AI, so now they're like,
it's okay, just here are the rules.
So the first thing you should know is that they want you to disclose whether or not you're using AI. So the way you can do that is by putting it in acknowledgement section. You can put it in like a disclosure statement, but essentially each journal has their own way, and this is what people are saying about it. The detail is very important. It's the type of tool you're using, how you've used it, as well as the large language model that you've used. For example, GPT-4 or Claude, Anthropic. Those sort of things are very important, and it says in the method section or in a disclosure within the acknowledgement section as applicable. So
I think it's very important that we do understand the rules, especially with the university or the institution we're studying through or teaching through. It's really important. So this is now where I get goosebumps, because what I want to share with you is AI is advancing so fast, but these are tools that appear to have come out of the blue and are offering different experiences and different ways to engage with the content. So when you've got a multimedia input and output, so you can do video summaries, you can do podcasts, there are interactive tools. As I was saying, driving in my car, I chat to ChatGPT and I brainstorm ideas off of them. And I want you to imagine preparing for your proposal defense. And you say to ChatGPT, help me prepare for my proposal defense. Here's my proposal. Ask me questions the panel could ask me and help me with the answers. Isn't that a great way of using it? It's extremely powerful for that type of thing. Then in some instances, you can have this dynamic lecture hall-like experience where researchers are engaging in discussions, asking questions, and you feel like AI is your peer or it's your assistant and you're almost back in class again. I loved my MBA blocks. I loved being in the lecture hall. And so for me, I learn a lot through discussions and engagements, which is really nice. And having these different ways of engaging with AI, it allows you as a researcher to experiment with different learning formats to suit your preferences. So back to Andy.
The number one thing that I've learned by using hundreds of AI tools for research is that large language models actually do a pretty good job at almost everything these tools do. Now, there are some specialized tools which we'll get to in a minute, but large language models such as ChatGPT, such as Perplexity, such as Anthropic, that's it, such as Claude, and also such as Bing, they are pretty good if, and this is a big if, you prompt them the right way, because most AI tools are just sort of like hiding behind them is ChatGPT or another large language model, and it's like, oh, hello, oh, I wasn't expecting you to look back here. It's ChatGPT with a fancy layer on top. So you need to know how to prompt these large language models properly, and this is what I have come to understand, is that it needs these things. The perfect prompt looks like this. So the first thing is context. You need to give it like, I am a researcher, or you can say you are an expert researcher. That is an important part of the context, and anything else you need it to know to do a good job, such as you are a first year researcher doing a literature review on blah, blah, blah. That is great context. The next thing you need is what you want, as well as any constraints you want to put on the prompt. So you need to say, I want you to describe this research paper to me, or you can say something like, I want you to provide me with an understanding of blah, blah, blah. So whatever you want the large language model to do, you need to give it what you want it to do and any limitations, like don't talk about this, or don't give it in table format, don't give it in bullets. Whatever you need it to do, give it that constriction and it will work with you. The last thing you need is format. You need to say, I want this in bullet points, a table, a graph, whatever it is, a paragraph, 25 sentences, however you want the information you need to give it. And then you've got audience. Quite often I say this will be shown to a peer-reviewed panel of experts, or whatever it is. That is what you need to say. So you've got context, what you want with constraint, format, and audience. Just stick to that and you can do most things that these AI tools do, such as writing, such as editing, yeah, it's all at your fingertips, without having to pay a subscription. Each AI tool excels at a particular thing, and the problem is at the moment we're in this sort of like topsy-turvy world of AI tools where people are trying to find their own little niche with their AI tools. There is no one tool that you can use throughout your entire research process, whether it's finding literature to submitting and editing for publication. There are lots of little steps in between, and each tool does something really well. So for example, if you head over here, SciSpace, fantastic at literature reviews, and they're slowly sort of like producing AI writers, finding concepts, paraphrases. But it started with chat PDF and also trying to find research. So you use your little fingers, tippy tappy in there, and it will give you research based on the semantic search requests that you have put in there. Then you've got Julius AI for any of your data stuff. You've also got Jenny for writing. You've got Consensus for finding out a consensus within a particular research field based on the papers. And it goes on and on. Now, the thing about this is we're at a stage where you need to create your own AI toolkit. You need to sort of chain together different AI tools that allow you to get the most out of the vast array of tools that are out there. So
he makes the statement that we need to create our own AI toolbox. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be showing you in a few minutes. So if I look at the academic AI toolbox and I say, let's look at the different things that we as students need to do along our journey. What are the tools available? And this is really, as of now, it's the current view. And every single day, as I say, more come out. So let's look at the first step, brainstorming. You've got creativity. You want to create outlines, discussion points, notes, maybe some knowledge management. So I use ChatGPT for creativity and for brainstorming ideas. Then you've got Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, Microsoft Copilot. There are just so many different tools. I still love ChatGPT. I am a heavy user of ChatGPT. And when I show you my ChatGPT, I've trained it so well that I don't have to keep telling it the same stuff every time I prompt it. The next thing we're going to do is a literature review. We want to find reputable, academically sound research papers and other resources. SciSpace, Research Rabbit, LitMaps. Oh, LitMaps is like both Research Rabbit and LitMap. You can literally go down a rabbit hole, because what it shows you, it will show you a paper, and then it will show all the papers that cite that paper. And if you drill into that one, it will show you all the papers that cite into that one. So it literally creates a map of all these different papers that speak about the same topics and cite each other. It's really a cool app to play with. Then we have Elicit. I used to be a very big proponent of Elicit when it was free. I then moved to SciSpace, and they are really open to feedback. So I've communicated with them. You'll see they commented on the last webinar I did, but they will ask questions and what do you think features should come? And I just found them really open to suggestions, which is great. Then you've got Semantic Scholar. And Consensus is the one that Andy was speaking about a few minutes ago, where you can see how people have a consensus around a certain concept or theory. Then you need a reference manager. And this is something most people skip. And I have to say, I skipped it for a while, but when I show you my workflow, please don't skip it. And there are two big players as far as managing your library. So when I said I've got 1,000 pieces of content in my library, I mean in my Zotero library. So that's the knowledge management is the next one, which is number 4. This is where you keep your notes, your research findings, and you build a second brain that really you can use to interrogate what you've learned through your research. It's not a have to have, but I find it extremely helpful, and using something that's open source like Obsidian. In fact, this is Obsidian here around my neck. Using the Obsidian open source software, there's so many people that are building plugins that recently, I'm doing grounded theory research, and recently I found a plugin that can help me code my grounded theory. So I just geek out on this stuff. It's awesome. Then we get to data analysis. So you might have quantitative data, or even like I mentioned with my grounded theory, that's qualitative coding. You can use some really cool tools. SciSpace does a superb job of crunching your numbers and making sense of it. There's Tableau from Salesforce, which really helps you put your analysis into a format that is digestible by almost anybody. PowerDrill is also fantastic, and Vivo. Then the last one, let's look at ethics. Let's look at maintaining our academic rigor throughout, and there's plagiarism checkers, which we all know, like Turnitin. There are also site validations to check that the sources you've cited in your work are legitimate and valid. And these are tools like Quillbot, Scriber, Cite. They're awesome. And then all of these also offer AI detection. So you might want to, let's say you have to, very much like a plagiarism checker, you might have a 10% leeway. Your university or educational institute might say you don't have to mention AI if it's 3% or less. And products like Grammarly have built-in AI checkers. I would recommend that you put whatever you're doing through more than one AI checker, because some of them work really well, some of them not so well, and it's always good to check. So these are the tools in the toolbox. And now I want to show you my work, my demo of my workflow. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, if somebody can pop a research question or a theory into the chat so that I can do the live demo on an actual new idea or a research. This what form of social capital sounds interesting to me. So let's give it a shot. All right, let's give it a shot. You know what it's like when you do live demos, guys. I've been in digital for over 20 years, and Murphy's Law, sometimes these things happen. So let's do a live demo. Okay, dokie. So let's start. Right off the bat, I'm going to share my second brain. I did mention it. So this is Obsidian. Okay, So this is where I've got all my notes. I've created categories that I use. So, for example, South Africa history, financial services, women in South Africa. I've created these little categories, and those are my tags that I use. I've got quite a lot. So people and encounters, I might have people, resources. And this is just my own way of creating notes that I can search. And then here I've built in a large language model, which is like a chat GPT, but this is the one that will read my notes and give me answers. This is where I said having it on your laptop as a local system means I'm not sharing my notes with anybody else. I'm not sharing it with OpenAI when I'm using ChatGPT or this new Chinese company with DeepSeek. This is on my laptop, and DeepSeek makes it so much easier for you to use. I'm currently using Olama as a model. I'm now going to upgrade to DeepSeek because that's probably going to be better. But this is my second brain, and this is where I've got a lot of my notes, and I've built in a little AI model over here that I can use to ask questions of my notes. So fabulous. Okay, guys, so this is what I'm going to share with you now using Obsidian, which is the open source software I told you about to build my second brain. Is really what I love is it's going to show you how my thought connected over time. So this little thing is the notes that I created, and then it starts to show you connections. And that's really great because it means you can then see where you are getting clusters from your data while you're going through your research. So this is Obsidian. It is a really cool tool. It's completely free, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And when you see Zotero here, you'll see that I've put Zotero into Obsidian. I also have ChatGPT, my own chat, and SciSpace built in. So I've created a workspace here for myself where I can do all of my research and everything in one tool. Now, in ChatGPT, the screen is going to say ask ChatGPT anything. It can create an image. It's got this image app called DALL-E. I don't find that really great, but it's got that. It can analyze data. It can give you advice. It can code things. This is really nice. People use it to fix bugs in code. It can analyze images, summarize text. There's so much it can do. And now with the new ChatGPT, you can attach files. You can tell it to search the web. There's a really cool operator for ChatGPT where you can actually say to ChatGPT, look at my calendar, go book me a hair appointment, let me know when it's done. And it does these tasks for you. Book me an Airbnb, go ahead and run this task for me because I'm busy. And that's really cool. And that works really well. A new feature in ChatGPT, which you might not know about, is if you look here, you'll see my webinar is sitting here in my history because I used ChatGPT to help me prepare for this webinar, which was really cool. But let's say you want to do a quick search on something you don't really need it in there. You can do a temporary chat. So if I do a temporary chat, it's like going incognito mode. It's going to take the memory off, and then I can do a temporary chat, which is really cool. But this is very important here, customized chat GPT. This is something very few people know about, and I think it's really important. So this is where you train ChatGPT to give you information without constantly having to give it the same instructions. So what I've got here is call me Bronwyn. I'm a doctoral candidate and businesswoman. What traits should ChatGPT have? So I've got here, write a long, detailed response, use persuasive academic tone with conversational vocab and grammar, use British English spelling, which it doesn't do all the time, provide a thorough analysis, explain complex scientific concepts in a clear and accessible way, include references using the Harvard referencing method. That's super important. And then anything else it should know about me. So I say I'm in the process of completing a doctorate in business leadership. My topic is I've chosen qualitative research. So I've given it a lot of information about myself, and I've enabled that for new chat. And you'll see that when I use ChatGPT, that's what it's going to provide for me. Let's do this. You are a PhD student who is researching this topic. Don't worry about the spell check. That's my Grammarly kicking in. I love Grammarly. Highly recommend you get it and you pay for it. Very worth it. Okay. Please help me with some ideas for my study and a brief outline. Good. And here it goes. Sounds like a fascinating research topic, given that Gen Z, born between approximately 1997 and 2012, has grown up in a highly digitized, globalized, and socially conscious world. Their concept of social capability or capital may differ. So here you go. Ideas for your study. Defining social capital for Gen Z, key forms of social capital, the role of technology and social media, and it's going to keep going. The methodologies you can consider, a brief outline, here we go, background on social capital and its evolution. So you can see here, it's very, very creative. Another new thing with ChatGPT is what they call Canvas, which means we can now discuss this study and it will update the same thing and not just keep adding so that in the end you're scrolling down and down and down, which it used to do. So it's given us some really great ideas here. And in the sake of time, I'm not going to interrogate it any further. I'm going to jump into SciSpace to show you how I would use this for finding sources that really, really help with my research. So what forms of social capital? Oh, is there a question?
Yes.
I heard somebody.
Sorry, Bronwyn. I just want to find out. Let's say then you get these topics, these headings. Then how are you going to use them in your research? Do you have to now change them in a certain way, or you can plug them up just like this? How do you go on about it?
No. So you've got to write it in your own words, right? You've got to redo it in your own words. But this is giving you ideas. So let me give you an example. Okay, I'm going to say, write a chapter on defining social capital for Gen Z and provide sources using the Harvard referencing method. And go. Okay, so what it's going to do now is it's going to give you a well-structured chapter. Okay, this now is what I was saying earlier, introduction. It's given you traditional theories, Boardrow's perspective. So here's already some of the research, which is very, very cool. You'll see it's giving me my sources in the copy, and then it's going to list them at the bottom. So let's just leave it doing its thing here. With this one, because it is using the Canvas feature, you can now say, oh, I don't like this in 2.2.2, please find a more recent source or something like that. So you can actually speak to it, and working with ChatGPT, you can co-create what it looks like. So it's giving you that head start that you wouldn't have had, and then co-creating it.
Okay,
so I'm just going to let it finish. You're very welcome, but I'm going to show you how to take it even further and get like really excited about it. So I'm going to leave it to do its work on this chapter. We'll come back to it. So let's say I want to go back to the top one. One of the things was the value of what forms of social capital help? Okay, let's choose this question. What forms of social capital help Gen Z navigate education, employment, and mental well-being? Brilliant question. Now we go to SciSpace. So SciSpace, let me just show you one more thing before we go to SciSpace, is my library in Zotero. So in Zotero, I have my library, and you'll see for DrBron, which is my research, I've got over 1,000 sources. What's lovely about SciSpace is that each source you can see here is how it would cite it if I'm using it in my research. So we're going to do for our demo, we're going to use this as our question, okay? And I'm going to show you a very exciting way of working with both. So there's Zotero. So Zotero is also super cool because you can read the documents, you can highlight them. So you see I've highlighted this one. This is my supervisor's thesis. I've made comments. And what's nice is because I've integrated this with Obsidian, I can send these highlights and my comments or annotations, because I use my iPad and sometimes I scribble on these things, and it will send those to Obsidian as a note, which is really, really cool. So there's so much you can do with that. In fact, you can also create notes which you use in Zotero on your document. So let's go back to where I was with SciSpace. So SciSpace is now where you're saying, help me answer this question, but help me find really good academic sources for this. So let's ask this question. If you're asking a question, so you can either chat with a PDF, do a literature review, get it to write stuff, find topics, paraphrase. There's so much it can do. But let's use this question and say, I want you to help me answer this question. Give it a second. So what it's doing is going to try to answer the question by using different papers or different sources. So this is your literature review that you need need to do when you are researching what's the literature out there that relates to my research topic or my question. So there are 10 papers that it's citing here. Let's go to read more. And it's saying social capital plays a crucial role in helping Gen Z to navigate the challenges. And you can see it gives you a lovely, lovely summary. Then at the bottom, it's going to give me those papers, and I've created for myself these columns. Summarize the abstract. What are the conclusions? What were the methods used? What are the practical implications? What are the challenges? What was the problem statement? And this is really, really cool, because then I can actually, if I want to, I can export this as a CSV or an Excel file. Very, very, very cool if I want to. I can save this question to relook at another time. So let's say we're wanting to, I can also say I want papers that are PDF, open access, or the top papers, or more filters. And this is one that we have to do, I think, all the time. I apply last 5 years and then I tell it to look again. I don't want old papers. We want in the last 5 years. Size space does not hallucinate. So we go back here to our chapter that was done. There's our references. These you would need to check. So the references they've gave us, you'd need to check because, like I said earlier, sometimes ChatGPT makes it up. Recently, it has been so much better, but size space never makes it up. So the papers that you get here are actually scientific papers. And you can see now they are all very, very recent. So let's say harnessing digital strategies, which is the number one that they've quoted. I want to look at this particular one. I can say, yeah, this is actually a brilliant one. Let's have a look at this one. Very, very interesting. I don't have time to read it because I'm busy driving. So create a podcast for me that I can listen to it while I'm in my car. So you can ask it questions. You can highlight tables and say, explain this table to me. What are the practical implications? So you can actually interrogate that to find out information. So let's give it a bit of time. There we go. So that is AI generating a podcast that sounds like two people having a conversation, right? It sounds like two people discussing this paper. Now, I was saying we have different learning styles. We have different engagement styles. I love to talk. So a podcast for me would be a great way to listen. If you use Notebook LM's podcast, you can actually interrupt it and it'll go, oh, we have a question from one of our listeners, and you can ask a question and they'll then answer it on the podcast. So these are really developing very quickly. But back to size space, if I'm wanting to, let me just go, a DOI is a really important thing for us to learn, because this is a journal article. A DOI is a digital object identifier. So it's like a serial number for every piece of literature out there. So if we copy this, I'm just going to copy the DOI because now I want this PDF, right? So I'm going to hop into Zotero and I'm going to ask it to add this to my library. Let's hope it picks it up. There it is. Harnessing digital strategies to manage emotional health among students. And immediately you can see it knows it's a journal article. That's the title. That's the author, etc. So I'm in Word and I want to speak about, okay, don't do this, don't copy and paste, but in this interest of time, I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to say, let's say we're speaking about this and I'm wanting to cite that specific research report. So back to my Word document, I'm going to type it in, Gen Z, and now watch this. Magic. Zotero, I need you to add a citation and it's going to remember, okay, not today, Harvard, and it's going to ask me which one I want. And this is the last one I added, so it's going to remember that. But I have 1,000 documents, so I might want to cite more than one. So let's say I want to do volume and enter it. Okay, it cites it for you. And then at the end of your document, you can ask it to add your bibliography, and there it does it exactly the way it's supposed to be done. So it makes your life so much easier if you have everything in a citation tool. Even though Word itself has got a very nice citation tool and a reference functionality, I use Zotero as a separate knowledge management tool. If I'm on a website, so let's say, what do I want to go to? Broadband.co. Why virtual bank cards expire? Let's have a look at this. Oh, very interesting thing to read. I can let SciSpace access the site, or I can say, ooh, this is an interesting report. Let me add it to Zotero. So what Zotero then does is it adds it to my library as a web page. And again, it's going to show you, for web pages, we need to show when we accessed it, etc. That will all be here. So it'll have the website address and it will show when it was accessed, exactly the way it's supposed to be. So in my paper, because we can access websites, this is the reference for my broadband, and I'm going to ask, and it's up Y virtual bank. There we go. And I'm going to pop that in. And it will show you the My Broadband available ads and access 30th of January 2025. So having an external reference tool like Zotero helps you to put everything in there. I know I'm never going to be able to read all 1,000 sources that I have in my library. So if I open on SciSpace, my library, I can import all those documents from Zotero. So when I wanted to create an insight or I want to ask questions, I can say to it, create insight from my library or my library and the internet or the internet. So it gives you this opportunity to go through multiple sources at the same time and pull the insights in. And this for me is mind-blowing. I use this every day. It is my favorite tool. And by linking it to Zotero, which is my library, my reference manager, it really, really helps. Again, here you're getting some, let's go back to our ChatGPT that we mentioned. This is really great for the brainstorming, as I said. You can't write, it can give you an idea on outline. There's no reasons why you can't use the concepts. I always say you write it in your own words because that is so important, because at the end of the day, you don't want somebody asking you a question, you can't answer it. So this Bordeaux viewed social capital as a sum of actual or potential sources. So we might say, tell me more about Bordeaux research. So now I can speak to it and hopefully it's going to help us. So there we go. It speaks a bit more about the research on social capital. Then I can say, are there more recent cases of this research? Or I can say, are there people that disagree with it? And then ChatGPT is going to again go help and have a look. So it's searching the web now. So it's doing similar to what SciSpace did, but it is, as I say, it's more of a creative brainstorming tool than the scientific. So let's ask it here. Researchers who disagree with on, what was it? You said social capital. So you might want to look at people that disagree, or are there people that have built on it? So I'm using spiral dynamics, which is amazing, as a framework, a theoretical framework, and I found people that built on it. So here again, it's giving you from the top 5 sources. Let's say we want to make it, there we go, we've got columns. You can chat here in SciSpace. You don't have to jump out. Very cool. And again, it's giving you these documents. So I can listen to the podcast. I can add this to my library if I want to, Zotero. I can look at the summary. TLDR means too long, didn't read. So I can add columns. So I might say, okay, on these sources that you've given me, what are the contradictions? So let's add that. What are the contradictions to him? Let's see what it comes up with. The research highlights contradictions. I just want to see if I can get out of there. There we go. In experiences of migrants, particularly regarding the perceived value of workplace versus the actual promotion opportunities. So here again, you can see that it's giving you information. And here is, if I click on this, exactly where I can find that in the PDF, and it's showing you it's already in my DrBron research library, and this is the title of that, and it's in the abstract. If I look at number 2, it's going to show me it's in my research library, Zotero, because remember I showed you that we popped this into Zotero, and if I want to locate it in the PDF, let's have a look. Exactly where did they put it? There we go. It's going to show us. So let's say we want to use this in the chat, or I'm going to ask it to summarize this. There we go. So I've gone through this like really at warp speed. But what I want to show you is when we're using a tool and we know how to use the tool, and we've got a workflow of having a place where we can brainstorm and get creative and come up with questions we might not have thought of, like ChatGPT. And we've got a reference tool. In this case, I shared with you my Zotero library, my reference tool. I've got a place where I write which is Word. I've got a place where I store my notes, which is in my second brain. You don't need to have that. Please don't worry about it. But they all talk to each other. I've taken the tools that I found were very relevant to me, and I've created a workflow that I can use. And how fast was that for us to generate a chapter, to come up with a literature review, to find disagreements? The whole premise of SciSpace in the beginning is that there are millions of academic sources, lots and lots. And there's no way we as human beings just with two eyeballs can read them all. And that's what this does for us, is it will do your literature review. It discovers new papers you might not have thought of. I have spent hours, if not days, finding subjects, and I get so excited because I didn't think of that. And then I go deeper and I go deeper. And I think that's why I want everybody to really embrace AI, because it's going to open your mind to ideas that you never would have thought before. And it's not that scary. And I've shown you 3 tools. I've shown you GPT, SciSpace, and Zotero, which are all free. You can start with it right now. You can start with it today if you want to. So I'm encouraging you all to find your toolbox. Let's go and see the tools that are available. As I've shared with you, there are so many. I'm going to give you this document, but I'm also going to offer, if you want me to help you find your toolbox, I do one-on-ones. I also do group if needs be. Chat to me, and let's see if we can set up a session. It's an invitation to you guys to say, how can we help you create your workflow? What is your way of studying? What is your way of going through things? How do you learn the most? We are 3 minutes over, and so I'm going to end it there. It depends on how to complicate it, but usually yes.
No, it's fine. Thanks.
Yeah. Unlock their mics. Let me
Yeah,
just
no,
quickly do that.
this has been very insightful, indeed. And I now
Awesome.
know where to start, and I'll
Great
come
stuff.
through to meet you for a one-on-one when I need more.
Brilliant. I would say play with it. Watch Andy. Andy's amazing. There are a lot of channels on using AI for academics. Andy's energy matches mine, I think. So that's why I love him to bits. And he gets very excited about the tools, same as I do. I have also been in touch with him a few times. He's really phenomenal. So find the tool that fits you. And as he mentioned in the video, not all tools are created equal. There are different tools, and you'll find some work for you, some don't. Cool. I want to thank you guys so much for attending. If you need anything, I am right just a click away. I'm going to send out the deck to everybody, and you're welcome to contact me. So thank you for attending. I really appreciate it. God bless. Have a fantastic evening, and be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.